Hey, Teddy K here for the Best Buy blog, and in this video review, we take a look at the Samsung Galaxy Book Pro 360, a two-in-one PC laptop that does more than just flip backward. It's obvious that the Galaxy Book Pro 360 is a two-in-one laptop. We know that, but we also know that relative to its size. Now I'm using the 15.6-inch model here, which weighs just over 3 pounds and is pretty feathery light for its size. You're typically not going to find a two-in-one at this size that feels like this. Now naturally, part of the reason for that, of course, is because you're not going to see a lot of metal really on the outside, and also there are some other caveats that go into this. So this is one of those devices, as I was using it, I found that there were things that I really liked, and there were a couple of gripes that I had that kind of gnawed at me as I was using it. I'm going to start with the good stuff first. Now, first and foremost, obviously, you have a very nice looking machine, but what really I think captivates, or at least captivated my eyes to start with, was the display. So I'm just going to turn this thing around here, okay, so you can kind of get a look at it. And of course, as I show some clips kind of how it looks, the display really, I mean, we're talking about an AMOLED display. Okay, so the contrast is fantastic. It looks great. Anything that you do on it is great. So I was using Lightroom and Photoshop a lot on this laptop, and I did appreciate how it looked. I would have liked a higher resolution because this maxes out at 1080p, which is okay, but again, working with photos a lot, I would have preferred something a little bit higher. Although I did appreciate that the color correction was great. So colors look fantastic, and they are pretty accurate as well, which is not always what Samsung's been known for. So that was, I mean, just the display generally, whether it's working on something, whether it's watching video, what have you, it does look great, but a little higher resolution. It doesn't have to be 4K, but even 2K would have been great. I do want to mention something about the keyboard. So the keyboard is also, again, you see how flat it is. There's only 1 millimeter of key travel here. This is a very shallow keyboard, and you notice that right away when you start typing it. I find this is going to be a very subjective thing. You may like it, you may not. My personal issue with the keyboard was actually where the shift key was on the left side. It's half the size that it normally is on other keyboards, and I just constantly was making mistakes when it came to typing because of that. If you like the numeric keypad, there is one that is a little bit reduced in size to the right, so this is technically a full keyboard. The trackpad is huge, which is great, and it's very responsive, perhaps even a little too much by default, but you can always adjust that in the settings. The other element to this display, of course, is that it is a touchscreen. So true to form for Samsung, this is a device that comes with an S Pen, and it is a fully featured S Pen in the sense that it does have the button on it where you can just click, and you should be able to see, I can't really see on my side, but you should be able to see a menu that comes up just to sort of show you what you can do with it. The pen is valuable naturally because you can use this device as a tablet. So if you flip it around completely, 360 degrees, you now have a device that you can use like any other tablet. And with the pen, of course, you can make certain edits, especially if you're doing something artistic or editing like I was doing in Lightroom, where being a little precise was a lot easier to do because of that form factor. If you do pitch it like a tent, of course, video also is easy to watch. And again, because the screen is so nice, video does happen to look good. As far as performance goes, I don't think you're gonna have a real problem doing most tasks. So even programs like Photoshop and Lightroom ran pretty smoothly here, which was always nice because they can be resource hogs. But one of the problems I had here is something that is actually very specific to Canada as well. Samsung, for reasons that I'm not aware of, or at least I'm unclear on, decided to only go with 8 gigs of RAM for the models that are available in the country. I don't know why, and it to me is a mistake. Now, RAM is important when you're multitasking and running various apps at the same time. I did notice that there was some sluggishness if I had a lot of tabs open in a web browser, for example, and I had Photoshop and Lightroom open at the same time. That to me, I mean, if that's your regular workflow, and to me sometimes it is, that's problematic. But also, in my honest opinion, if you're going to call your laptop Pro, you probably should not start at 8 gigs and go with 16 instead. Different strokes for different folks, I get it. But for me, I think that was a missed opportunity, and I don't really know why there wasn't a 16 gig option in Canada. Despite that, the processor is great. You're not going to get the kind of performance, I would say, that maybe some other competitors who have squeezed in a faster processor and a better cooling system have been able to do. So for example, if you're looking to do something really intensive, this is not a gaming laptop, number one. So something intensive like that, you're looking to play the latest games, this is not going to do it. You probably wouldn't want it anyway, just given the screen resolution, but even the performance is not going to be up to snuff, simply because the specs are not really made for that. That doesn't mean that you can't do video editing, for example, but again, the same thing applies, because if you wanted to do video editing, your best bet would be to actually attach or connect this to an external monitor, a 4K monitor, which you can do because of the Thunderbolt 4 port that's on here. So you do have some recourse if that is what you're looking to do. But again, this is one of those laptops you're going to buy primarily because you want to be able to work with it while being portable and mobile. Given its size, even though it is a little bit bigger, that's not an issue because of the weight, obviously. But the performance also stands up for the most part. My issue was less about doing something intensive and more about doing things that required resources while they were running at the same time. So more RAM being the issue, less the CPU. So a couple other things before I get to battery life. The fingerprint sensor on the power button is hit or miss completely. I did not have a lot of luck with it. I don't know what the problem was, but a lot of times it would not recognize my fingerprint for reasons that I simply can't understand. The other thing is the veneer of the laptop itself. This is, despite its matte finish, is very much a fingerprint magnet. And so if you're looking for something to look pristine and to look really, really clean all the time, you're probably gonna have to wipe this down with a microfiber cloth pretty often. Again, those are minor things in the grander scheme. When it comes to battery life though, which is obviously a major consideration, the good news is that Samsung for the most part is telling the truth. And what I mean by that is when they say that the laptop can do up to 16 hours of battery life, for the most part that is true. This is a beast when it comes to how long it lasts. You're probably going to find that it lasts less if you are pushing it in some way. So for example, when I cited that multitasking kind of scenario where you might have a situation where you're running different apps at the same time, that could affect how long the battery life lasts. But needless to say, I was routinely clocking over 12 hours and usually up to 14 without breaking a sweat, which is great news if you're looking for a workhorse that's going to last throughout a day without any problems. A couple other things before I go here is also the pen. Now you're wondering, okay, where does it go? Well, it does attach here. There are magnets in the back or at the top of the laptop that allow it to stick. It's not the best though. I mean, it's a temporary solution really as far as where you can keep it. There's no other holster. There's no other place really to put the pen. So it is something you're gonna have to be weary of in case, just in case you might lose it and you don't want to do that. But for just kind of placing it somewhere so that you know where it is, you can always place it on the top of the laptop. And that's my review of the Samsung Galaxy Book Pro 360 for the Best Buy blog. I'm Teddy K. Thanks for watching.